Harkie, how did you get your introduction to hockey?
The introduction was made by my parents. They immigrated to Canada in the early 70s, and like every Canadian, they got hooked on hockey night in Canada, and they fell in love with the game. Obviously, immigrating to Toronto, they fell in love with the Toronto Maple Leafs with Daryl Sittner, Lenny McDonald. Throughout that, the Islanders had a good team, and with Mike Bossy and Brian Chartier and Dennis Popman. So it became a daily occurrence at our house every Saturday night. Not only my parents, but my uncles, my aunts, extended family, everybody got together, and that was the thing to do.
As a child playing hockey in the late 70s and 80s, tell me about your experience.
Like every child, while you're watching the Toronto Maple Leafs play or the Vancouver Canucks or Calgary Flames, you always say, okay, I'm going to be like so-and-so, or so-and-so is my favorite player. For me, it happened to be the Edmonton Oilers was my favorite team with Wayne Gretzky. I would never miss an Edmonton Oilers game. And on the East Coast, we were a couple of hours ahead. So I was lucky enough to stay up and watch the game with my dad. And my mom would say, hey, you need to get to bed. You need to get to bed. Whereas I was lucky. My dad would say, no, it's Wayne Gretzky. It's his favorite team. The Edmonton Oilers, let him watch it. So I grew up watching Wayne Gretzky. And then obviously the transition from there was to get on the ice and start playing. And lucky for me, my parents got me involved in the game and started at a local arena in Toronto, Downsview Arena, where it was just learn to skate as a 6-year-old. And as time went on, my dad would ask me, do you really like this game? Do you enjoy it? And I said, yes, I do. And we got a little bit more serious, started playing single A hockey to double A to triple A. And it just started to evolve, and I got more intense in the game. And my parents did everything possible, work 2 jobs or 3 jobs to help support my dream, my vision of becoming a hockey player.
Yeah, and just on that note of your parents, you're a first generation Canadian, but for them to move to another country and start all over and enroll their child into an organized sport that's pretty expensive. You touched on it a little bit, but can you describe some of the challenges from the financial perspective to the cultural? What was their experience like?
They try to do whatever to support me in my endeavor to play the game. Like I touched upon, whether it was working 2 jobs or 3 jobs, or simply arranging rides with other relative members, saying, like my dad would say, hey, unfortunately, I can't take time off work. He's got a term in Chicago, or he's got a term in Detroit or in New York. He would have to rely on his brothers or relatives or my mom's brother. Hey, can you take him there? Because I can't leave work on Friday, but I'll be there Saturday. And so just taking time off work, or people, especially in the Punjabi community, everybody invites everybody over on Fridays and Saturdays. And they would have to decline. And everyone would say, why are you declining? Well, my son has a game or a practice at 6 a.m. or a game at 10 a.m. and we can't miss. And everyone would say, oh, it's just a game. It's just hockey. And, hockey for us wasn't just to make it to the NHL, but it was about a discipline, character, integrity, learn cultural values, how to integrate with society. So it wasn't just, okay, you're going to be play in the NHL, but we wanted to have these core rules that you could take in all facets of life and implement them.
Reflecting now, what does being the first South Asian in the OHL mean to you?
It's an honor, and it's an honor that I don't take lightly. I thank God and the lovely parents and the supportive family members I have. I feel I'm in a position of being a role model for current and future South Asians that want to get involved in this beautiful game. When I got to the OHL, I didn't understand who I was or what I had accomplished, because we always grew up as individual hockey players playing a team sport. And so always for me, it was, I got there because of help of my parents, my family, my teammates, my teachers, my professors, my mentors. So I always looked at it that way. But at that time, being the only South Asian in the OHL, I didn't understand the situation I was in and what kind of impact could I make, or I didn't understand the platform that I was involved in. I just went to play the game. Luckily for me, I was able to keep my cultural values. I was able to read and speak Punjabi. My teammates accepted me and embraced me. I know my parents, when I would play in Belleville in the OHL, we go to Oshawa. My mother would make samosas for our general manager, our general manager and coach, the late Larry Mavity, and her teammates. So she would make samosas after the game was over. Everyone just, couldn't wait to eat them. So it was such a wonderful experience in the OHL, whether we had family weddings or we had religious ceremonies. Everyone, from coaches to people in management, they came with open arms. They celebrated with us, with our community, with the Sikh community, the Punjabi community, the South Asian community. So I was very, very fortunate. But at that time, I didn't understand the significant role that I had or who I was. I just played the game for fun. I enjoyed it. And now as I'm older, I get to really look back and understand what I had accomplished. But again, when I say I should say we, because my whole family accomplished it with me, friends, mentors, coaches, colleagues. So it's a we thing, not an I thing.
Yeah. You describing your experience really shows the beauty of the sports, but there also is another side to it that many are critical about. What challenges did you face as a player of color?
I was the first to play in the OHL, and I didn't have anyone to lean on or say, hey, when you went through the ranks, how was it? Or how can I prepare? Or how am I able to adjust to the environment I am? I mean, prior to myself, there was Robin Bawa who played, obviously. He played in the Western Hockey League. We didn't know each other. I've heard of him. But at that time, there was no Twitter. There was no social media, no cell phones to call each other and try to speak to each other. So again, Amrit, I can't tell you how much, it was tough. It was really, really tough. I had two choices. Either I continue to cry and quit, or I cry and do something about it. So I took the crying part and the hurt part and try to channel it in a positive way and try to persevere. That was, I had two choices. So I picked the one to try to persevere. Were there lots of obstacles along the way? Yes. But there was for our parents when they came to Canada. There was for somebody else that might have had maybe financial issues or medical issues, or, if we look at outside of the hockey world, it could have been somebody had trouble becoming a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher because they didn't fit in or they were casted as outsiders. So, the only way of defeating the outsiders or saying you can't do this or you can't be this is persevere, but along that way, there is a lot of hurt. There is a lot of sacrifices that people don't see behind the scenes. I could sit here and talk about all the negativity, but from my experiences, instead of speaking about those negativities, let's create it to positivity and share how beautiful this game is, so that along the way, when they do have some negativity in their life, there's so much positive that the negativity gets eliminated, right? It's a one-off thing. Mm-hmm. And the only way to do that is, someone like myself, Robin Bawa, AJ Baines, Randeep, yourself, we have to be the voice, and we have to go out and speak to the community and say that where there's adversity, that once you surpass adversity and you move forward to a place of success, it's more rewarding at the end of the day.
As you wrapped up your playing career, you still managed to stay a part of the hockey world. So from a player to a scout, how did that transition happen so seamlessly?
So yeah, I played junior hockey, played with great players. I ended up playing in Prince George with Zdeno Chara, Eric Brewer. I ended up in Windsor with the Spitfires with Matt Cook, who was an ex-Vancouver Canuck. Jeff Zare was a second round pick to the New York Islanders. So I played with a lot, and I got to meet a lot of people in the NHL, from scouts to director of player personnel to general managers, and I formed a relationship. And getting to know them, who they were, and what this game meant, and from a business side, from a scouting side, from a development side, I got to learn from the best of the best. And then at the age of 20, when I realized, okay, the NHL is not going to be a dream as a player, because I just simply wasn't good enough. I started to explore opportunities, in management. And how it started was going back to Toronto and speaking to 15, 16-year-olds about staying in school, because everybody at that time thought when they're playing the OHL or WHL, hey, we can drop out of school, we're going to play in the NHL. I went back and started doing seminars for kids to stay in school and to get an education, because I found out at the age of 20, 21, I'm not going to play in the NHL. I need to go back and do grade 13, which was in Ontario. So I went back as a 21-year-old. And so from there, lecturing kids on stay in school, Mike Shute came up to me and says, we'd like to offer you a job with Team Ontario. And Team Ontario that time had Nathan Horton, Corey Perry, Anthony Stewart, Mike Richards, Eric Stahl, Rick Nash. And I said, I know nothing about scouting. He goes, don't worry, you'll learn. And at that time, I enrolled myself at the University of Ottawa. So while I was there, and I just started with Team Ontario to supervise the players, watch them when they came into Ottawa or came into Kingston, Belleville, my old junior team, said, hey, why don't you come on with us? And I said, okay, now you want me to scout junior hockey? I've only been in hockey now for a month in scouting. And they go, no, don't worry, you'll get it. And then Sanjay Kumar and Charles Wang bought the New York Islanders. And my agent at the time was Larry Kelly, represented Steve Yzerman. Doug Gilmore said, hey, why don't you apply to the Islanders? And I said, well, I haven't scouted more than 2 months with these other jobs I got. So I wrote a letter to Sanjay Kumar. He replied back, and he said to contact Mike Milbury at the time. And I talked to Mike Milbury. He told me to contact Gordie Clark, who ended up becoming my mentor. And to this day, everything I have in hockey or any management position I've held or now working as an agent is because of Gordie Clark. And there are others too, like Tony Granato at Wisconsin University, Ted Sater, who coached in the NHL, Steve Cady, who's the athletic director in Miami, Ohio, Rick Kornakia. So that's how I got involved, Amrit. And because of our family background, and we were taught to respect our elders, be polite, do as you're told. My cultural values in the South Asian community, the Sikh community, allowed me to get a job in the NHL because I never spoke back to my elders. I worked harder than anyone else. So those teachings, that upbringing helped me get in the NHL.
How did it feel being the only person of color walking into a room at such a young age on top of it all?
It was really intimidating. I didn't feel that I belonged, right? Because not only I was the only person of color, but walking in was ex-NHL players that were in the Hockey Hall of Fame, that played for the original 6 teams. I just quietly went in. I was really intimidated. I was scared, because I didn't know that if I was accepted or if I'm saying the right thing or what my body language is like. And not only was I a person of color, I was at the age of 21, probably the youngest scout ever in the NHL. So whether I was a person of color, I think that was a big thing, but more so being 21. And there are 30, 40, 50-year-olds applying for these jobs and not in. And the ones that are in didn't get them till later. So yeah, I had to face a lot of obstacles, but what I did was I just quietly went about my business. I worked hard. I allowed my work ethic to prove who I was, whatever my background orientation was, or my culture, or where I came from, or how young I was. I put those aside, and I just wanted to work hard. And I thought, how I get these people who are general managers, assistant GMs, player personnel, scouts, how I get them to like me, it's going to take time, but just work hard. Just work hard, be respectful, speak when you're spoken to, and make sure you don't go in there being arrogant or conceited. The things that we learned growing up in the Sikh community or in the South Asian community: be humble, be loving, be caring. And so those are the principles I used in my working for the New York Islanders and the Vancouver Canucks.
Talk about how you managed to stay connected to your faith, your culture, despite being involved in such a wide sport.
Again, my parents, right? I speak, read, and write the language. Grew up going to the Gurdwara, right? The Sikh temple. I don't know if this is what I'm going to say is actual or not, but I believe it myself. I have visited the most Gurdwaras in North America because I've been able to work for the New York Islanders and the Vancouver Canucks. Because if I traveled to Montreal, what I would do, the games were at night, I'd go to the Gurdwara in Montreal. Whether it was Ottawa, I'd go there. Whether it was in Prince George, I'd be at the Gurdwara. Whether it was in Lake Cowichan, I'd be there. So before every game, I would go to the Gurdwara because, how I was raised with the spirituality, our culture, our faith, the principles. I'm so proud to be Sikh and South Asian and work in the National Hockey League. That's where my positivity comes, that I know a lot of people have been hurt in this game and a lot of things have been said, but how can we come together? Our faith and our culture teaches us, come together, share your positivity. If someone is down and out, how do we pick them up? How do we come together? And that's done with not just myself, that's done with the team. And I know that's what the message is for Hockey Night in Punjabi too.
As well as the player, as a scout, now representing players and being the president of Live Sports and Entertainment. What does a day in the life of Harkie Singh look like?
You know what? Everyone thinks it's being an agent is just signing contracts, getting endorsement deals, marketing your players, advertising. The role that I play is more of development, and from a psychological perspective, emotional. We have a lot of players that we represent between the ages of 15 and 20, and there's not a day that's the same, or not the hour that's the same, right? So I'm playing a role of mentorship, guiding them how to eat right, how to go to bed on time, how to conduct yourself on social media. Yesterday we had a Zoom call about multiculturalism, ethnicity, gender in the game of hockey. So every Zoom call we have is important. Some Zoom calls touch up on analytics, some touch up on food nutrition. Yesterday, like I mentioned, was on multiculturalism and ethnicity, how to get people engaged, how to get involved, how they're so important as 16, 17-year-olds who are future NHL draft picks. They might get drafted by Vancouver Canucks or Winnipeg Jets or Los Angeles Kings, and they have to understand the community they're getting drafted into, what the population is about. Is it the Latino community? Is it the Black community? Is it the South Asian community? Is it the Asian community? So every day, my job as an agent or a company is not just to talk about hockey, but talk about all facets of life, educate them so they understand. And then I get to still travel around the world. And I'm so proud of the players that I see, especially in the South Asian community, because, I'm close to that community. When I played, there was myself. Now when I go into Vancouver, I go into Kamloops, Kelowna, Toronto, Montreal, it is so astonishing, and I'm so proud, and I get emotional. I really, really do, because I wish I had that. I'm kind of jealous. And that I wish I had, that I can line up on the face-off and speak to somebody in Punjabi or chirp them in Punjabi or something like that. I'm so proud of the numbers of players that I see, parents engaged. It truly does, it gets me emotional at times. And when I played, there was AJ Baines in Kamloops. There was Robin Bawa, Manny Malhotra, and that was it, But yeah, Amrit, seeing so many people in the South Asian community playing, I can't express the joy that I feel.
I feel the same way. I go out to hockey shoots sometimes and I just kind of want to stay there because I just soak it all in, you know? You're
Yeah,
seeing these
yeah.
kids from all these backgrounds, really the changing face of hockey. And it's wonderful to see this progress on ice. But hockey has kind of missed the mark from a business operation side, and that's kind of where you're coming in. So, what do you think the hockey world can do more of to be more inclusive?
What they need to do is reach out to people like yourself, Robin Bawa, Manny Malhotra, Randeep, myself, others that have played like AJ Baines, and just sit down with us. And sitting down with us is not, oh my God, what's going to come out of this? Everything that comes out of it is going to be positive. Like, we're not going to be there to just share the negatives and all that. The negatives are there. We know it's there. We know what we've been through and we continue to go through. But again, the focus is, are we going to spend all our time and energy on the negativity? Or we're going to say, okay, this is our experiences. This is what's hurt us. Let's make sure it doesn't happen to someone in their current or in the future, in their present or current or future playing this game. So we need to come together, and that's with the NHL, the NHLPA, the IIHF, the different governing bodies like Hockey Canada, USA Hockey. Let's all come together. Let's not be there to single out someone or tarnish someone's reputation because what they did in the past. Or if someone's done something in the past, go talk to them nicely and come together with them and say, hey, what you did in the past wasn't right, or how you treated me was wrong. But that being said, there's a good in you somewhere. Let's work together so that what we went through, hopefully our experiences and the education we provide, somebody else won't go through that. But we need to have like workshops. We need to have symposiums. We need to have conferences within our South Asian community and educate men and women that this is a wonderful game and there's so many opportunities within this game and everyone has the right to participate. The biggest thing for me in the NHL right now is how do we get away from the friendship system, the buddy system, or if you're an ex-teammate, we're going to give you this job, we're going to do this. Let's hire the right people. Let's give people the opportunity to work as an assistant GM, director of player personnel. You don't have to play in the NHL, right? Let's have more women involved in management. And I'm not talking, it's great that women are involved. They're involved in analytics. They're involved in HR department, marketing. But you know what? I would like, there are so many women that are qualified that could be a GM in the NHL or the president of an NHL team. Let's generate more hockey Pacific roles and not just say, okay, from an administrative perspective or business perspective, you do this. No, let's do that. And let's have more South Asians or people from diverse communities, different ethnicities in management.
What advice do you have for those watching this interview that perhaps want to pursue a career in the business operations side of things?
I would say network as much as you can. Sign up for what we just talked about, conferences, different seminars. Reach out to presidents of organizations. Get into your local community. Go knock on the team's door or call them and say, hey, I'd like to get involved with the Surrey Eagles, or I'd like to get involved with the Toronto Patriots or the Vancouver Giants or Oshawa Generals, and start as an intern maybe, or start taking stats down, maybe video analysis. Get out there, really, or if you want to get into broadcasting, go to your local Rogers or Omni or Sportsnet channels and go speak to people, get your foot in the door. Network. Instead of saying, well, hockey's not for us, or they're racist, or it's not for, again, take away the negativity. Do I can't say what I did was right. That's for people to determine. But I just wrote a letter to Charles Wang and Sanjay Kumar, and I asked Larry Kelly to do it, where somebody asked me to push pucks or, clean the dressing room or do this. I I did exactly what I was told to do. And people would argue and say, hey, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? And then 4 years later, when I needed a recommendation for an NHL team, I got it, because the respect, I wasn't arrogant. I didn't have an ego. I fought through adversity. I really had to fight through adversity. And obviously, people might say, oh, he got there. No, it came with a lot of hardship, But so my advice would be get engaged, get into your community, work with people, and where one door shuts, another is going to open. But you have to remain consistent, and you have to be passionate with what you want to do. And I'm here to help. You're here to help. Randeep is, we're all here to help. AJ Baines would be, Manny Malhotra. Give us a call. Like I said, it's so proud for me to see so many South Asians involved in the game. And we are far, but we're not. We're going to see more people after they're done playing end up in managerial roles in the NHL.